All right, welcome to Witchpolice Radio. I'm here with someone whose name is very familiar to me. I feel like I've seen your name and heard of you and seen you on show posters and things for years now. And this is our first time actually talking, so I'm glad we can make this happen. I think that the best way to start this off is if you want to introduce yourself and give a bit of background about what it is you do as an artist.
Yeah, for sure. So my artist name is Beatox, beatboxer. It's in the name. Producer, songwriter, rapper, singer, vocalist, and yeah, I've been making music for maybe about 10, 15 years, and the Beatox sort of moniker came about maybe about 7 or 8 years ago.
Okay.
And yeah,
Cool.
um,
Well, I'm sure this is something you get asked a lot. I mean, there's obviously new stuff that's happening with your music that we're going to get into, but I'm sure you get asked this all the time. But the beatboxing thing, I feel
yeah.
like everyone thinks they could do it because everyone can make noises with their mouth, but then most people, when they attempt it, they fail miserably. So, like, I mean, what goes into it to make it actually sound good? Because you obviously have experience doing this for quite a while, and you've developed your own sound and everything with it. But I think because it's just mouth noises, people I think assume it's a lot less complicated than it is.
For sure. I mean, I will say anyone can do it, and that's what's so great and special about it.
Yeah,
But yeah, to get like I think really good and be able to perform it, the first thing or one of the steps I say to like students when I'm teaching is consistency and like sound consistency. So a lot of people come up and say, "Hey, I can beatbox," or and do their thing, but they sort of have a lot of momentum, a lot of like breath, and then they start to kind of fizzle out,
right.
and then the big breath to like reset. And if any instrument, if you're playing guitar for 15 seconds and then fade out and then have to reset, like it's not consistent. So I think the big key thing is being able to like practice consistency. A bit of circular breathing kind of goes into it, or finding the sounds that you can do. Inhales are very important, so it's
Right.
being able to like maintain that even performance for minutes to potentially hours straight if you need to.
So is it? I mean, this is probably a stupid question, but the circular breathing thing is it like vaguely related to playing bagpipes?
It might be. I don't play I don't play
Well, either
bagpipes.
do I, but I
Uh,
understand that bagpipes involve circular breathing, so I just it seems like it might be the same kind of thing because that's just got a constant noise, right? Like happening with that thing. I definitely am not an expert on the bagpipes, but
yeah, like I find so I can even show you for a second if you
yeah, yeah,
want.
sure, yeah, definitely,
Yeah.
definitely, let's do it. Yeah.
So I try to encourage people to like just breathe like and like through the nose and then making a sound with their mouth. So like the first thing is like a kick. So like and just even those two sounds, yeah, I can do forever because I'm just focusing on inhaling through the nose and creating that separation between the mouth. So like breathing in and out through your nose while your mouth is open. Maybe that's circular breathing. I'm not sure, but I'm able to make sounds while breathing,
Yeah, yeah,
which I think is part of circular breathing. There might be more techniques to it, nuances with bagpipes and stuff, but that's how
yeah.
I've
I
been
know it's a
teaching
weird
people.
question about the bagpipes, but yeah, it's the only other time I've heard circular breathing used in a musical context. But I'm sure there's other instruments where that's part of it as well. But I guess like how did you get involved in this? Because like, again, like you said, I mean, anyone can do it, right? It's something that
Yeah.
you don't need to be picking up an instrument and playing. You obviously figured out how to make these sounds vocally. What got you into that?
So, I mean, as a kid, I've always like acted and performed and made sounds. And I think in like kind of like late junior high, early high school, I heard beatboxing on the radio. So like
Yeah,
Justin Timberlake and drop it like it's hot and stuff. And I think I'm good at emulating sounds, and I just heard it, absorbed it, could do it. And I was like, oh, this is music. Okay, cool. Now I can make music with my mouth. That's
right.
awesome. And then I think it became a bit more, it went from that to then like at parties, a lot of like rap circles would sort of form and people wanting to freestyle and someone needing a beat.
Yeah.
So I became the guy that would drop the beat. And then from there, I don't know if you know the name Butter Pretzels, but I
It
used to.
sounds familiar, actually. Yeah, I think I don't. I definitely don't. I'm hearing the name. I don't know what it sounded like at all, but the name
So
is vaguely familiar.
so it was me and another guy who now goes by Smart Death.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that
back
guy's
then
very
though,
successful at his thing. Yeah.
yeah, no, he's a great artist. And before we did more like kind of stoner rap and uh just guys in, late high school, early
Yeah.
university. And so I was sort of the beatboxer, he was the lyricist, and we had another few friends who were producers and I was sort of beatboxing, and then that led to then, oh, like we can record this. Oh, I want to write too. And it just sort of evolved from there. And I realized that, yeah, beatboxing was more than just a making sounds in a party gimmick. It's like, hey, this can actually be a foundation for a beat, foundation for a performance, foundation for songwriting.
Yeah.
And it just really, it's like really just taken a life of its own in the last like 8 to 10 years.
That's cool. Yeah. So how do you get then from that? I mean, even from getting more involved in doing it with other artists, and how does that become then a solo project where with beatboxing kind of anchoring the whole thing? Because that's
Great
a big step,
question.
right? That's a big
Yeah,
step
no,
from
that's
backing
a,
someone else up to then this is your thing, which has been fleshed
yeah.
out with everything else.
Well, so with me and Mike, we like both were writers eventually, and beatboxing actually got lowered.
Okay.
And I,
Okay.
I lost the beatboxing. We just both became vocalists. And then when we went our own ways, I was sort of wound up learning how to record at UMFM and um yeah, just sort of like by myself making beats with beatboxing and was trying to think of a new name and a new branding and was like, oh, Beatox is like people know me as a beatboxer. Maybe I'll kind of reclaim that and like
Yeah.
that's like where all the like fun and pot like all the curiosity and the great energy comes from. It really comes from beatboxing and like that inner child and that voice. So that that started in maybe 2015, maybe even earlier, 2013. Do you know Hoopaloop? So
Yeah. Yeah. He's been on my show. Yeah.
Hooper, yeah. So Ron sort of caught wind of I beatboxed at his like home studio like around that time, and he was like, "Man, this is sick!" And just his reaction, I was like, "Huh." Or this is really really dope, and he was like, you should come back more. And so we ended up like starting Trendkill Productions together, and like yeah, I don't know, it just became this vessel of music, and that went from like yeah, just like learning how to record with it and writing. It was sort of a means of writing lyrics too, like beats and then lyrics.
Yeah.
And then I got sort of into the jazz musicians circle. They saw a show of mine and they're like, hey, we would love to like back you. And I'm like, okay, what does that look like? And how does that sound? And this is with like Jesse Popesky, Sean Burke, Carter Graham, Ben Kidd, or Kevin Waters was on the record as well, and Joanna Majoko, like all these like really great jazz players.
Yeah. Yeah.
And here I am just like a beatboxing lyricist guy, just no music theory, just I knew how to record and I knew how to edit and mix like on a super basic level with Ron. Like we were just sort of like learning together, but we had the means of recording and it just sort of evolved from there. And that's like I think where my sound has kind of evolved since then.
Well, the jazz thing is super interesting because I think that I mean, yeah, on one hand, you don't have the music theory. These are all people who I'm sure have very, very extensive knowledge of music theory, obviously, right? Because I mean,
Yeah.
they're the names that I recognize from there anyway are great players. So, but beatboxing and what you're doing, I mean, that improvisational part of it seems like it would fit with jazz quite well because you are sort of going with the flow of what everyone else is doing and providing this improvised beat with your mouth.
Yeah, it totally works. And yeah, it weirdly works. It allows me to beatbox with freedom and like learn from them and understand more about rhythm and musicality. And then I can like trust them and pass that off and then say, hey, this is the beat. You guys go with it. Okay, now I'm gonna do lyrics and vocals on top and like create songs and like yeah, it's been a beautiful like connection, and it allowed me to go even further, like beyond
Yeah,
just Winnipeg. Like I met a woman from Slovenia who was studying drums, and I wound up in Slovenia and
oh, cool.
Croatia and Austria, like with this music. They were like, "Hey, we're studying jazz. We would like to play these songs." Because I made a record and now I've made 3 or 4 albums, but at the time it was the first like full length like with jazz players.
Yeah,
And yeah, just like all of a sudden I wound up like in the middle of nowhere in Slovenia. Like I had no idea where that was, basically through beatboxing and and rapping and writing songs.
that's awesome.
uh, but it was a really special experience. And I think one thing that's I've realized that's special about beatboxing is like it's just like it's music. It's not a language, like it's not English, let's say.
Yeah,
Like that kind of puts a limit. But beatboxing, anyone can like listen and anyone can learn and do. So I feel like that has been like a really cool thing that um has, yeah, really allowed me to like go some cool places and uh learn how to like integrate it with other musicians in this jazzy way.
Yeah, that I would not have expected that beatboxing would be something that you can do that with. And I mean, not just the jazz thing, which on its own I don't think I would have expected the two to mesh so well. But the world travel is kind of a nice added bonus to that as well. Um, so, do you think of yourself at this point as a jazz artist, or at least a jazz adjacent artist? Like,
Um,
what do you call yourself if you had to fit into a style? I know no one wants to do that
yeah.
anymore, especially because there's so many subgenres and all this. But like, how do you place yourself if you had to put your album in a record store? Where would it go?
Yeah, it's a tough place to put it. I sort of say myself as like being similar to other artists like Loyal Carner or Tom Mish. So it's like groovy, it's jazzy, it's got nuances of hip hop, it's got
Yeah,
a chill essence. So yeah, it's jazz adjacent for sure. I like when I'm producing music, I'm usually either recording jazz players or like sampling jazz players, like jazz sounds. So and like that neo sort of neo soul-y,
yeah,
like soulful lush, um, that kind of sound, definitely. So that's how I sort of it's hard. I'm like deep in the marketing world that I'm like, where am I? What playlists am I pitching to and
right, yeah, yeah.
what hashtags and this and that. So yeah, I draw on a lot of different types of inspiration, but it's definitely more jazzy, groovy, hip hop leaning for sure.
Has the exposure to all these jazz players and sort of going in that direction, has that affected sort of the sounds that you are using with your beatboxing? Have you sort of tried to bring on more? I mean, because you're hearing horns, you're hearing pianos, you're hearing everything else that maybe wasn't part of sort of the initial hip hop beatboxing, other than samples, right? But I mean, you're hearing these people playing it right in front of you. Has that influenced you as well in terms of like what sounds you're creating?
Yeah, maybe. I'm sure like yeah, I mean I'm always I'm like a sponge, you know. It's like
Right.
I'm just constantly absorbing what is being thrown at me and I record a lot. So I'll like record our rehearsals, record these jams, record these sessions and just sort of hone in and be like, wow, what is Sean playing on bass there? Like what a great line and wow, what are these drums doing? And like so it's for sure like influencing my rhythm and my approach to beats and like my internal rhythm that's
Yeah.
happening for sure. And I also try to listen to other styles too, like just a bit more like, you know, whatever, like they're like more moderny stuff. I can still
Yeah.
like tap into that, but I like, yeah, I like more intricate beatboxing patterns and stuff. So it's definitely the jazz and the stuff I listen to for sure is a huge impact.
Cool.
And I'm also uh, there's like new technology that's come out in the last few years where I'm able to now trigger electronic drums. And so there's this interesting thing that's happened in the last 3 or 4 years where I can now express myself musically, with my own patterns. So like, but I can now instead of doing I can trigger any type of drum kit with this like microphone
Oh,
technology,
cool.
that's called a doubler, and all of a sudden now I'm like, huh, now I can be an electronic producer with my mouth. I can be a rock kit with my mouth. It's so there's still there's a lot of like new experiences that I'm going through with like music production and technology and finding my sound and what is that sound. So
Yeah, that's super cool.
yeah.
I mean, I guess it
And
makes sense, right? I mean, like every other instrument you can plug in and put a bunch of pedals on it and effects and loopers and things like that. Well, of course, that works with vocals. It makes complete sense. So,
yeah.
as far as performing live, though, I mean, I guess you're playing the Jazz Winnipeg Festival, which is sort of the timing on this one is good because this is imminent. You're going to be playing a show very soon. Um, how does what does your live show look like? I mean, obviously, in some cases, you're playing with other musicians. It obviously seems like something you can do solo as well. What does a typical live show for you look like? Is it sort of depending on the context and and who's there and all that?
Yeah, it's changed so much over the years. Like I've literally done, yeah, everything you've listed. So I've done live looping by myself solo at a spoken word thing.
Yeah,
To I have enjoyed live looping beatboxing. There was like a period in my life where I was doing that a lot. I like just got a looper and was like, this is has to be on everything. So I think that's a answer of its own. It's like it's contextual to like the tech that I'm messing around with. So if I've got a looper, I'll do some looper shows. I got
Right.
this like that microphone I was telling you about where I can trigger beats. I'll throw that in a concert. If I have access to like some amazing musicians, I would love to get them involved if the budget allows it. So um yeah, when I like pitch to like shows and festivals and stuff, it's like, what do you want? Do you want solo, duo, quartet, quintet, septet? Like, I can bring it together and make it work. So, long answer short, a jazz fest, it's a bigger show, so you may expect drums,
Yeah.
keys, guitar, bass. I'm finally getting sax involved, which is
Cool.
something I've tried to figure out how to like orchestrate and arrange. So that's happening, which I'm very excited for. And yeah, but then at the same time, I'm still trying to find out what exactly is that live thing. And I know it's beatboxing for sure, and it's storytelling and dance and movement and upbeatness and excitement. Um, so each show is like a new way of finding out what that sweet spot is and what brings me fulfillment and brings the listener and the other people enjoyment.
Yeah, fair enough, fair enough. As far as not to dwell on sort of what your live show is, but like, do you have how different, I guess, is your set from say a solo looping show to a show where you have other musicians playing, you got drums and everything else? I mean, are you doing basically the same material, just an altered version of it, or is it completely drastically different what you're doing sort of when you're just solo looping versus like are there certain, I guess, parts of your set that transfer over into the different
Mm.
formats?
Yeah, there's definitely some overlap. There's also like severe, like insane differences. Like
I
the
believe it,
spoken
yeah.
word one. Yeah, the spoken word one, I did like I've written poetry before. Like I mean, songs are poems, right? So especially like in rap, it's rhythm and poetry.
Sure.
So yeah, some of my more softer poems and poetry and spoken word parts, I'll like felt comfortable doing. I'm like, it's all good. I'll just do this here. Um, I can't necessarily play. I can't play sax, and a lot of I play keys a bit, but when I would loop, it would be mostly beats, like
Yeah.
beatboxing and bass. I can hum bass lines, so I would like hum bass lines, beatbox, and then vocals, and so that's like all you're getting musically, and then vocals on and like lyrics on top. So the songs can carry over. It's just there's a fuller sound. There's chords. There's more instruments. There's solos. There's
Yeah, of course.
um, yeah. So yeah. But I think ultimately I'm learning. It's like it's all sort of around me and my voice and beatboxing in my songs, like my lyrics. So
Yeah.
that's sort of the root, and then it just gets flavored and dressed up and splashed in different ways.
Sure, sure. So, I mean, with the time, if people listen to this at the time it comes out, the Jazz Fest thing is sort of right around the corner. But how does someone hear you? You know, someone could hear this a year from now. Show's already over. You have new music coming out, if I'm not mistaken. So, how does someone hear your stuff? Where do they find you? What's the best way to listen to what you're doing if someone is hearing you for the first time, maybe on here and want to find out more?
Yeah, I mean, you can go to beatox.ca and get buy the vinyl or get the music from the source. But obviously, with streaming, I'm everywhere on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, you name it. So all of it goes under Beatox, so Beatox, and yeah, there's the most recent record has been a long time because it's been a long time since I've released a record, and it was sort of written during COVID times, so it had
Sure.
really been a long time since I'd connected with friends, and that's sort of the themes of that album. And then there's a musical mind, and I'm trying to remember the other one. A Beatox Experiment, which is with the jazz players for the first time.
Okay.
So those are the three records that I have that I can think of right now.
People should go to the website, right, to find if there's any other ones, or maybe
Yeah,
some you forgot.
just yeah, exactly.
Cool, cool. And then as far as like, upcoming shows and things like that, I assume the website's probably a good place to check. Social media, are you easy to
Oh
find on
yeah.
there?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram. I'm probably the most active. TikTok as well, and I guess YouTube. But Instagram, same thing. Beatox. I think it's an underscore at the end, and that's the thing I'm most active on. So you can find out about all upcoming shows, tours, releases, videos, all the cool stuff I'm trying to get up to.
Cool. And is there, I mean, have you found a community at all for beatboxing? in Winnipeg? Like, are there? I mean, there's got to be other people doing it, right? But is there? I mean, like, do you guys hang out at the coffee shop or something? Is there, is there like a underground community of people who are like doing this stuff together or separately?
You know what? I'm not totally sure because as much as I beatbox and I use beatboxing in my music, I don't know that many beatboxers, and yeah, the community is quite small, and at times I almost like I don't know, I don't consider myself a beatboxer, but like there's I'm not a battler. There's beatbox battles.
Right.
That's like I feel like where the community kind of exists. I don't think a lot of people view it as like this musical expression and way of integrating it with musicians. So I feel like this beatbox battling, which I never got into because I was not a battle rapper, not a battle beatboxer. It's just not, I don't see
Yeah.
music as a battling experience. It's a collaborative, peaceful, like positive and, enforcing thing. So, but there, I have, in not in Winnipeg, but I went to the UK and met like one of the most brilliant beatboxers, Kimmy Beatbox, and they introduced me to some other beatboxers in the UK. So there's scenes there, and they're more collaborative. But
Cool.
in Winnipeg, I don't really know as well. I think I've only met one or two other like Canadian beatboxers who are really like kind of doing things musically in that way.
Yeah, I guess it makes sense that you doing it more as a composition tool is almost not what the most common way of approaching it is. Because I think that there's I think I've seen videos of people doing the battles, and it's really cool. But it's yeah, it's
Yeah.
definitely a different approach than what you've been describing for sure.
Yeah. But I do try to encourage, I mean, I've taught like a bunch of like elementary schools and like
That's awesome. Yeah, they would love that.
yeah, yeah, and like I try to teach it and show it like yeah in that other light and say hey, like if you're trying to learn music, learn how to like what are beats and how do you keep a tempo internally too. And so I find it is like a really great tool for like getting into music and getting into even production and stuff. So
Sure. Yeah.
there's yeah, there's a lot of great tools for it. So I'm like slowly trying to like maybe create a bit of a, community bit by bit by like teaching kids. Maybe in like 10 years we'll see like a huge rise of
Yeah.
beatboxers.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Do they? I imagine they must respond to it well, right? Like, I mean, I got kids. They're older now, but I imagine they would like just have totally been all about that in elementary school.
Yeah, no, they yeah, it's the teacher was like laughing because they're like, wow, I've never seen our class like just so, I think some kid had even like researched ahead of time before I came and
Right
was
on.
like, I know. Yeah, no, kids love it. It's really engaging. I've taught it like remotely, like over Zoom, like even some Slovenian kid
Oh, cool.
who I met. Yeah, and like so yeah, I love, even his English was pretty broken, but um, we could communicate a bit and then but teaching him like that circular breathing thing was like really special where all of a sudden I have this like kid who's sort of essentially dipping his toes into like meditation
Yeah. Yeah.
uh and so that was really special and I was like there's more to this than just making sounds and being musical. There's like a meditative grounding essence to it which is cool and I'm like learning more and more about its capabilities.
Well, and that fits in with the very much with the sort of chill vibe you were describing too. That almost neo soul-y, jazz hip hop influence. That for sure fits with that just relaxing and yeah, meditative.
Yeah. But it's yeah, when I heard Kimmy beatbox, so this was for like this thing in the UK. I went to like demonstrate how to use that microphone, and their beatboxing was like UK garage, like
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, whoa, right, that's like so much high energy and like yeah, so it's cool just seeing like yeah, I definitely am like a pretty chill beatboxer because I'm a fairly chill guy, and then to see the like more energetic styles of people expressing their beatboxing in like very different ways. It was really cool experience to see.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. So, what are the what are the details on the Jazz Fest show?
Yeah, so it's Saturday, June 22nd. It's the final day.
Yeah.
I'm hitting at 6 p.m. Yeah, got a super stellar set of musicians here and got an hour of original um, music that's mostly from the new album, some older tunes, some unreleased stuff that I'm working on. Did a track with Daphne and Len
Oh, cool.
Bowen
Cool. Cool. That's
and just
awesome.
been
Yeah.
kind of yeah, I've been sitting on that one for a bit and that one's like a good tune and yeah, that's the Jazz Fest one. It's at the Cube, at the old Old
Old Market
Market
Square.
Square. Yeah. And yeah, it should be a really fun time. I'm just like really excited to lean into this project and keep like honing in on how it will be live. Because like I said, I've been working on the album for like 4 or 5 years, but it's never been performed fully. So this will be a cool
Great
experience.
place to do it. I mean, if you're going to do it anywhere, right? Jazz Fest, Old Market Square is a pretty good spot to try it out.
Yeah, and yeah, that space is really great. The Park Theater, obviously, for indoor
Yeah,
spaces, I really like the park because the sound there is pretty
it's great.
stellar. And that's where I learned about one specific, I don't have it on me, but a specific beatboxing mic. The sound guy was like, try this. And I was like, what? And I remember Ron Hoopaloop was like, dude, what was that beatboxing mic? Like your scratching sounded nuts and like whatever. So it's always had a special place in my heart. And then yeah, and then we get to go to Saskatoon, which I've never been west of Winnipeg with my music.
Cool.
I've been east of Slovenia, but not
It's
west of
pretty far east.
Winnipeg.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we're playing Saskatoon Jazz Fest July 9th. And that's really like for me, I'm like, whoa, that's like a bit of a milestone to just like, yeah, get out of the province.
Yeah.
Leave, yeah, go with a couple guys and try some new stuff as well there.
Awesome.